Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I am excited to bring you some exclusive PlayStation 4 multiplayer gameplay that I recorded at an EA event in Redwood City. Now, PlayStation 4 was playing 64-player servers in Battlefield 4 with all vehicles enabled, no differences between these maps and the ones that you'll find on the PCs. It looked amazing, as you can see from this footage here. The frame rate was nice and smooth. I had no problem tracking my targets. Now, I am a PC player, have been for a long time. The last time I actually played shooters on a console was the original Halo on Xbox, the original Xbox. And so my shooter skills are definitely rusty. It took me a while to get back into the swing of things, but I have pre-ordered a PlayStation 4 because I'm quite excited for some of the titles on that console, and I've also ordered the Battlefield 4 version for PlayStation 4 because I'm very impressed with how it plays out. I think it really does offer the same sort of experience you're going to get from the PC version. Now, when it comes to piloting helicopters, I feel right at home on consoles. The control scheme with the dual analog sticks is identical to remote control helicopters, which I used to fly a lot. So I pretty much was able to hop on and just fly around the scout helicopters like I had been doing so for years. One interesting thing I noticed is that on PC I prefer using the helicopter with miniguns, but on console I prefer using the 25mm cannons because I'm not quite as precise with my aiming on console, so I need something with a little bit more splash damage to get the job done. I noticed that with other weapons in the game too. I was a big fan of the SAR-21 assault rifle in-game, which I'm using here. It's got the suppressor on here because this gun has so little recoil on console, and I'm not very good at recoil control with the controllers yet, so I found that this gun was much better for me and I perform much more consistently when I don't have to worry about that extra factor of controlling recoil. That's something that you guys might want to take into account, especially if you're new to the Battlefield series or you're getting into console gaming for the first time, is to pick a gun that's going to be easy to use and work on developing your basic skills, and then once you get more comfortable with your basic skills, you could potentially upgrade to a weapon that is a higher fire rate weapon but harder to control, and that way you can start perfecting those skills. I wouldn't recommend trying to go all out and using the hardest to use guns right off the bat. Work on your basic skills, upgrade from there, and that's definitely the approach I took to console gaming, as I was playing against some pretty hardened console gamers, so I quickly had to find ways to try and even the playing fields. Now, the next-gen console releases of Battlefield 4 are a huge deal because, as you can see from this footage here, the graphics are very good. It's the first time that a Battlefield launch on console and PC has finally been somewhat on the same page, and in multiplayer this definitely holds true. Not only was I getting consistent frames on 64-player games, but the visuals were really impressive. Sure, it's 900p resolution being upscaled to 1080p, but honestly I couldn't really tell that much. It still looked great, and if you guys want to analyze this footage and compare it to my PC footage, there really isn't a huge difference. In fact, there's probably going to be a lot of people that are getting better visuals on the PlayStation 4 than they would on a medium spec PC. Now, the important aspect of this video is that you can see that the console gameplay looks great. The next gen consoles can handle Battlefield 4 really well, but there is that question out there that everybody keeps asking, is does Xbox One or PlayStation 4 look better? And honestly, I can't really tell you because the differences are so subtle that you would probably have to spend hours and hours and hours in front of one and then hours and hours and hours in front of the other, or alternate back and forth, and even then you would probably only notice subtle differences. I think for the most part you really just got to pick your console and then grab Battlefield 4. You'll probably have a very similar experience on either platform. I realize at this point a lot of you have probably already picked the console, the next gen console that you are going to buy, but if you haven't, there are some pretty basic things out there that you can kind of weigh the pros and cons. You know, there's different policies from either company, but there's also the fact that this time around the Xbox One is going to have some priority content for the Battlefield franchise if that's what you're interested in. There's also going to be some exclusive launch titles like Destiny on the PlayStation this time around, so each console has its pros and cons. You kind of have to figure out which games you're interested in, perhaps which controllers you're interested in. Although I believe you can get controllers that look like the other console's controllers, respectively for each console. So if you want a Xbox controller on your PlayStation, there are companies that essentially make that. Now, as a PC gamer looking at console games, there are some things that really do appeal to me. The lack of hackers is a huge thing that attracts a PC gamer to console gameplay, because if you've been playing Battlefield or any top-end first-person shooters for a while, you will be very familiar with hackers, people using exploits to get ahead in the game. It's unfortunate, but it's just a part of PC gaming. This is so less common in consoles. I'm not saying it's impossible in console gaming, but from what I've heard, it just really isn't that rampant. The other thing that PC gamers suffer from that console gamers don't really need to deal with is frequent crashing, hardware incompatibilities, software incompatibilities, any sort of thing that can go wrong on the PC side of things, basically taking you out of the game, ruining your gameplay experience, is far less common on consoles because developers only have to develop for one set of hardware, making it very easy for them to troubleshoot and get rid of difference of bugs and that sort of thing. And speaking of everybody having the same hardware, that's another thing that kind of sets the PC world apart, is that some players might have an amazingly good gaming computer, giving that player twice as many frames per second as their opponents. On the console side of things, everybody's pretty much equal. You might have different controllers, but other than that, your performance is going to be identical. You might have different TVs, but you're not going to be able to squeeze more frames out of one console versus the other. So it puts everybody on a much more level playing field, and in that, skill and strategy really emerges as the top contender for putting you ahead of the game, rather than how well you have tweaked your hardware. So after playing hours of multiplayer gameplay on the PlayStation 4, 64 players, Conquest, Rush, Obliteration, all the game modes, I can tell you that it's an amazing experience. It's really fun to play, and it's going to be a huge success. There's just simply no way it's not going to be. I expect the console gaming community for Battlefield to grow by leaps and bounds, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that turns into. Personally, it's inspired me to try and get better with my console skills, because I found myself reminiscing of the days past of Halo and competing in some tournaments and just being really good at Halo on Xbox, and just watching my skills sort of fade over time and getting, frankly, my ass handed to me in some of these competitive matches. So I really want to get better, and I think Battlefield 4, PlayStation 4 is the way to do it. So to sum up this video, I will say that if you have been waiting for the Battlefield 4 game on next-gen consoles, that you are going to get an excellent experience, and you are not going to be gypped out of any sort of Battlefield experience that the PC players might be getting. You will be getting the same thing. In fact, you'll probably be getting a cleaner experience, because you won't have to deal with any sort of hacker issues or anything like that. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this game. It's going to be an absolute blast on console, and I'll see you on the battlefield. This is LevelCap, signing off.